Nouvillette and Wriothesley are the two brand new husbando characters coming to Genshin in 4.1. And through the grapevine, from people who've had some supernatural insight, maybe some dreams, we have learned what their kits actually do. And you are wondering which one of them is going to offer more value to your account, because I got to admit, these guys are super badass. And if I had to choose between these two characters, it would be a super tough choice based on their design alone. Let's talk about whether Wriothesley or Nouvillette is better for your account. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. We are going to be very general in this video. We'll not be going into specifics about their kits at all, but I wanted to get something out there to get you prepared so that you can plan out your wishes in advance, because it might actually determine who you do or don't wish for in the current patches. But if you would prefer to keep everything that they do as a surprise, feel free to click off the video now and come back after the live stream. With that out of the way, Nouvillette is going to be an on-field Hydro DPS, and Wriothesley is going to be an on-field Cryo DPS, so they both fulfill a very similar role. Wriothesley is a brawler, an up-close Cryo brawler, who primarily focuses on his normal, sometimes his charge attacks, and a decent nuke from his burst, but the primary value is his normal boxing attack. Nouvillette, on the other hand, summons this giant Hydro Pump and uses his charge attack, a special version of his charge attack, to deal a lot of damage. Wriothesley is going to be scaling off of attack, very similar to current on-field Cryo characters like Ayaka, and Nouvillette is actually going to be scaling off of HP, very similar to characters like Yelan, except he's an on-field charge attack user. So let's talk about first synergies for Wriothesley. He basically has three main teams. If you imagine Ayaka here as Wriothesley, this is the first one, some sort of freeze team. I do expect this to be pretty good. Unlike Ayaka, Yelan synergizes a lot better with Wriothesley because you're going to be wanting to use way more normal attacks. I know some people do like to use Yelan with Ayaka, but she has a lot more synergy with Wriothesley in this case. Obviously, Xingqiu will work well too, and Rosaria will work well too here, but this is going to be your highest team damage. Kazuha in pretty much all of Wriothesley's teams is going to be a necessity to get the max. You can go for other stuff like Lynette or Sucrose if you're a new player, but eventually you do want to be gunning for Kazuha. You can also go for a more hyper variant, so this is maximizing Wriothesley's buff. It should perform a little bit better in single target or just in content that can't freeze the enemies. And then you can also trade Shenhe for a melt variant. The only downside for this team is you're pretty much not going to be able to do a Cryo Swirl because Xiangling's Pyro application is too much, but nevertheless, this should be quite a strong team. Of course, we won't know which team is the best or which one you should go for until after he comes out, but I do want to go over his team so that you can decide, are these characters that are free? Are they characters that you're not currently using on your other account? Because if we're talking about which character, Wriothesley or Nouvillette, is going to be more valuable to you, it really comes down to what characters you have available for them. So if you have, that freeze team available, if you have Bennett, Xiangling, Kazuha available, then Wriothesley is a character that can step into that role. If you got yourself a Shenhe but you haven't an Ayaka yet, or you don't want to get Ayaka, you want a different way of building a freeze team, Wriothesley is going to be a solid option. In terms of power, he's looking not crazy, probably doesn't hit the level of Ayaka, but again, we really won't know for sure until he actually comes out. For Nouvillette, it's looking like he will have a bit higher of a damage ceiling, but he's a bit more restrictive with the comps that are actually good for him. You're going to be wanting to run Fischl along with Kazuha and Zhongli in the last slot. It is possible that Dia could be a defensive option for him. He has a passive that gives you a big bonus by triggering different kinds of Hydro reactions, so you're going to want to proc as many as possible. But it's possible also that Dia's reaction with Pyro might reduce the Hydro gauge too much, and so this team won't be as good, and Zhongli will be better. You can run options like Beidou here, or Layla, but it's looking like Zhongli will be far and the best option. Because of his charge attack playstyle, you can't run him with obvious synergies like Yelan or Xingqiu, and focusing on Fischl, Kazuha, and Zhongli will be the best. And so again, the reason why I'm going through this is not to, spoil you or spoil the surprise for later. It's again, so you can plan out your account. Because if you don't have Zhongli, but you do have a Shenhe, then you're going to get a bit more value from Wriothesley in the types of teams that you can make. If you don't have Kazuha, unfortunately, both of them are going to be pretty far from their ideal potential. And if you don't have Zhongli, I do think Nouvillette's going to be quite a bit harder to play. Maybe some of that gets fixed with Constellations, but we generally focus on Constellation 0 for this channel. And if you're looking just for the stronger of the two, it does seem like Nouvillette's the one that's going to be a bit higher In terms of the type of content that I expect them to be good against, I think both of them will be relatively quite good in AoE because they both use Kazuha, but I also think that they'll be both quite good in single target, just based on what I've seen from how they attack. It's really hard to say at this point, and I wouldn't say that either or should be a deciding factor for who you pull at this point. In terms of future synergies, there's one thing that really pops out to me as something we should probably consider. The Hydro Archon is coming out very soon, and if it's anything like Sumeru, then I expect the Archon to have good synergy with a lot of the Fontaine characters. So the question is, will she have better synergy with Wriothesley or with Nouvillette, aka which one will actually get the larger power jump? And so for me, when I look at it, I could go either way. Both characters play a lot with HP manipulation, which seems to be the theme of Fontaine. A ton of characters, at least so far, are working with the new artifact set by reducing their HP through their attacks or getting buffs for being below or above a certain HP threshold, and Nouvillette and Wriothesley are no different. So I expect both of their artifact sets to be probably the same, the new one, the Mariusher Hunter or whatever it is. And as such, I also expect the Archon to play into this theme somehow. It's really hard without actually knowing the Archon's kit as to which one she's going to work better with. I expect her to actually work with both of them. On one hand, Nouvillette's kit incentivizes more elemental reactions, which means he would have some anti-synergy with the Archon, but on the other hand, the Hydro Resonance may give him some synergy with the Archon, so it's really hard to say for me at this point. Wriothesley, on the other hand, perhaps he leans himself towards Freeze if the new Archon is an off-field damage dealer, HP manipulator, and perhaps she ends up being a really good option for him in Freeze teams. It's really hard to say whether either or both of them will want to use the Archon. My guess is based on the fact that so much in Fontaine has had HP manipulation, I'd be shocked if the Archon didn't have it, and if the Archon didn't work with them and was probably part of their best teams. But I think the biggest thing that you should look for is if you're looking as which one's going to be more valuable for your account, is which one gives you team options with characters that you're not already using. So if you're not running a team with Fischl currently, they both need Kazuha, that's a thing. But if you're not running a team with Bennett, then Wriothesley might be the better pick. But if your other team does have Bennett, then Nouvillette's going to be the better pick. So that's kind of how I would base the decision on. Do you already have a team that's using Fischl? Then you can't really make Nouvillette work. And Wriothesley is looking like the better choice. So that's kind of how I would base it on, is based on if you're choosing between these two, which of them is using supports that you're not already using. Let me know which one you're thinking of getting. If either, maybe you're going for both. My wife has actually changed her mind. She was going to go for Wriothesley, but after we talked about it, she's going to now go for Nouvillette. Although that's mostly because she thinks his animations look way cooler. I'm excited for both of them. I'll be building and testing both of them on release, and we'll talk about them again at the live stream when we know a bit more about their kit. If you've been enjoying the content, please consider subscribing. If you want to join a great community, check out the Discord. If you want more in-depth help on which one to choose, that's definitely a great place to go. If you want to support me and my family, feel free to check out my Patreon. And if you don't want to do any of those things, that is totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.